All right, take a look at the Dow, up better than 92.5 points, even though there is talk the President of the United States would be open to not an across-the-board tax cut, one that might not even include the well-to-do. In fact, one that could end up seeing taxes go up for the well-to-do. And then we have this health care back and forth and amendments and offerings and alternatives, including one that will be calling for repeal, a vote which is pushed back to later this afternoon. So the guy orchestrating all of this, or trying to, on the part of the leadership in the Republican Party, the South Dakota Republican Senator John Thune. Senator, good to have you.
Nice to be with you. Thanks, Neil.
Are you for this repeal effort or the version that's going to be put up for a vote later today?
I am, yes.
Now, how would this one be? Was it close to what you guys voted on in 2015?
It's, yeah, very similar to that. It's essentially the 2015 bill, and, you know, there's going to be one amendment prior to that vote, but essentially it's to repeal most of Obamacare and then create a transition period, a 2-year period in which we could replace it with something better.
And that amendment was the so-called Hyde Amendment, the abortion thing, and that is not expected to pass, right?
It's not expected to pass. I would hope that it would, but it's not expected to. That's right.
So where will we be if this was, you know, rejected only by one senator, Susan Collins of Maine, a couple of years ago? Now at least 3 are opposed. Where do you expect this goes?
It's hard to say until we have the vote. I think we have members who have expressed concerns about voting on the 2015 legislation and want to vote on something that not only repeals but replaces Obamacare right away. So we have members in different places. We'll see where the vote comes out this afternoon. But the one thing we know is we've got to get by the end of this week and the conclusion of this process, Neil, to a result, and a result that repeals as much of Obamacare as we possibly can, because Obamacare is in a death spiral. We know that. And it's leading to skyrocketing premiums and collapsing markets. All you have to do is look at the numbers, and it's clear that this is a disaster that we've got to rescue the American people from. But we have to be able, at the end of this process, the reconciliation, we have all the amendments and all the votes, and when it's all said and done, and the dust settles and smoke clears, have something that we can report out, that we can go to conference with the House of Representatives on, and keep this thing moving forward.
But where and how would that work out? I mean, as you acknowledge here, this one would be an uphill battle. I imagine you just keep coming up with alternatives that are acceptable, and you keep hearing talk about the skinny repeal that would remove the mandate for companies and individuals to have coverage, and maybe the medical device tax, and then you work from there, presumably. Is that what you think you'll end up with?
I think what we have to do is find that path forward that gets us 50 Republican votes. We just don't have any margin for error, and we know that all of our members are for repealing the individual mandate, which forces people to buy insurance that they don't want and can't afford.
Right.
The job-killing employer mandate, the medical device tax would repeal, and maybe there's some other taxes that can be repealed too that are driving up the cost of health care in this country. We're trying to figure out what that package is, what that list of you know, items is that we can put into a bill that when this is all done and all the amendments have been voted on, we could report out of the Senate with the 50 Republican votes, and hopefully the Vice President and the Chair if necessary. That's the end goal for Senate action, and then we will move to conference with the House of Representatives, where we'll take up that discussion again and see where that gets us.
But you would have presumably a while to then come up with an alternative plan after repeal, right? I mean, something that could be maybe years in the offing, or what?
Well, I think that the repeal, if we get a bill out of the Senate that repeals the mandates, which I talked about, in some of the taxes, and then go to conference with the House. The House, of course, has passed their version of the bill. We want to get as much of Obamacare repealed and replaced with something that's better as we possibly can, that gets us, you know, with the math working, you know, against us in the Senate, that gets 50 votes plus 1. So that's the goal, and we are committed to that. It's a promise we made to the American people. We need to fulfill it, and we're going to keep plowing forward. I think yesterday's vote was an important one because it allowed us to get on the bill. Now we get to have the debate, and at the end of the debate, hopefully we'll be able to report something out that repeals as much of Obamacare as we possibly can currently in the United States Senate with the votes that are available, and gets us to a conference with the House where we can keep that process moving forward and hopefully get to a good result at the end.
Is this a work through the weekend kind of thing?
Well, it could be for the Senate. We'll see how much the Democrats decide to try and delay or drag this out. we will at least be voting into the wee hours of the night on Friday morning, and we'll see beyond there. But I would hope that the conference, if we can get something through the Senate that we can go to conference with the House on, would start to meet right away, because I don't think we have time to wait. I think that this is we've got insurers who are trying to put out rates for next year. We've got markets that are in free fall. We've got to move forward, and I hope that there isn't any delay or any time taken that isn't absolutely necessary to get this across the finish line.
Switching a little bit here to the next battle, and that is over taxes, and the president seemed to be open to doing some novel things on the tax front, but maybe not including the wealthy. That if possible, there is a stipulation where they could see their taxes go up. I want you to listen to how your colleague Senator Thom Tillis reacted to that. But you would be open to what the president seems to be open to, a tax cut that would not include the wealthy.
Yeah, I think so. As a first tranche, I think at the end of the day, we should reduce the tax burden on everybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be a first priority unless it creates economic activity that helps the little guy.
But would you go so far as to raise taxes on the wealthy?
To the extent, to me, in tax reform, as we did in North Carolina, everything should be on the table if it demonstrates to us we're producing economic growth, which helps everybody in this country.
Senator Thune, what do you think of that? He is open to raising taxes on the wealthy.
Well, I hope that we can get done with this, Neil. And I met with members of the President's team yesterday morning, and this morning I met with members of the Senate Finance Committee on the Republican side as we sort of lay out and chart the path forward on tax reform. There will be difficult decisions that have to be made, but the goal is to get rates down for everybody. Now, it may be possible that in getting rates down, that there are some deductions that go away that might impact high-income earners more than others, and that you know, in the net they end up with not a tax cut. But the goal here is to get rates down, and more than anything else, to generate economic growth. We want to get that growth rate back up to 3% or north of there. And we're going to be looking at pro-growth policies. And one of the ways that you get growth is you reduce rates across all the categories, and especially right now, of course, with businesses, both with C-corps and pass-throughs. We've got to get that rate structure down. We've got to allow for some faster cost recovery. Those are the two things that get you the most economic growth. And if we want to get the economy growing at a faster rate, get better paying jobs created out there, and raise wages, this tax reform effort has to be about growth. And that's going to be our principal focus.
Real quickly, the Jeff Sessions fixation the president seems to have, keeps mentioning him in tweets. A lot of your colleagues are concerned about this. Are you?
Well, I think it's counterproductive. I mean, Jeff Sessions is a colleague. We all know and trust him. He's as honest as they come, and he's doing a very good job under very difficult circumstances. And I think that it would be in everybody's best interest if the president would leave him alone. But you know, obviously, those are decisions that the president has to make, and how he manages that relationship with people that he's appointed to his cabinet. But from our perspective up here, we believe that Jeff Sessions is doing a good job, and ought to tune out the news cycle and just keep focused on the work that he's got to do.
So every tweet you see on Sessions from the president, do you just say, as you're trying to get this stuff done on health care, move on to tax cuts, that the president is hurting it?
Well, I just think that it's a distraction, and obviously in the news cycle, when we come over here, wherever we walk, or we know we're going to a vote, or we're going to a committee meeting, it's a question that the media is very focused on. So, you know, look, I mean, the president.
Well, we're only focused on it, Senator, truth be told, because he keeps tweeting about it.
Right, and so that's why I said I think I don't think in the long run it's helpful for him to continue to do that, and I would hope that they would figure out whatever it is they need to figure out between them, and move on for the good of the country.
All right, Senator Thune, thank you very much for taking the time. Always appreciate it.
Thanks, Neil. You bet.